I will do my best to do 45 minutes for training for authors because it's very short time. I already get used to it that I do half a day presentation, whole day presentation, so it's not long. But I will be very, very quick. First of all, what I want to start, if I speak too quickly, please let me know. First of all, I want to emphasize that this is not the golden solution how to get published. I'm just sharing with you experience of Emerald, which I work for, Oxford, which I'm working for, experience of many editors, which I had a chance to meet, including Baltic Journal of Management. Presentation mainly is focused on technical issues. I mean, mainly on the mistakes, which very often are raised by editors, what mistakes younger researchers are doing when they send their first, second paper. So I will not touch the methodology of writing, methodology of research, mainly technical stuff. If you have questions, it will be much easier for me if you could ask after first presentation, then we can have a discussion. As was said, I'm representing OUP, Oxford University Press. Okay, I will stay here. We are part of the university, and this is very important for us because, do you see okay, or is it better if we turn light off? That's fine. It's very important for us because that allows us to understand the audience better. Through this link, we have access not only to our customers, but to the researchers. We're able to agree and develop. And through this, we develop large number of products. In reality, it's much easier to say what we do not publish instead of say what we do publish today. When we focus only on academic side, we have over 40 databases, big products like journals or handbooks or scholarship online and so on. And products are extremely important in the process of publishing. Without products, it's not possible to get published. I will talk about them slightly later, but understanding of the issue allows us as well to develop different products which help you to understand the process. Which products? I will talk about them later, but as well, those products are a very good place to be published as well. So the publication and scientific publication is not only article, it can be chapter in the handbook, it can be part of the monograph, can be part of the platform which is dedicated to, I don't know, art, music, law, and so on. So this is very important to understand that we give you the very wide and many possibilities to publish your research outcome. Why this presentation is different than normal, because normally I always talk about products 10, 15 minutes, and not just to promote them. The main aim is to make people aware that without products it's not possible to be published. And I think Lithuania is a pretty good example of that, because I work with Lithuania many years now. When I work at Emerald, I think first time I came in 2006. And I could see when Lithuanian consortium started to subscribe many resources from many different publishers and work together, and universities start to promote them internally. You can see when you start to do statistics, I'm sure that a consortium is doing it, the research outcome is growing year after year, because one of the reasons is understanding of the process, but another is access to the content. And I think this is the biggest problem still of Eastern Europe, that many researchers want to publish, but, and Eastern Europe, I don't mean Baltics, I mean further, because many universities want to publish, but they don't have really resources, and this is the problem. But about resources later. So first of all, how to get published with international journals, doesn't matter which one, let's say good international publishers. Pretty obvious, we have to have a clear idea about our topic, about area which we want to discover. And this is very often problematic, which is raised by editors. And I think a good example is if you have a PhD student. It's exactly the same. What PhD students do and people which want to write article, they have an idea, but they really don't have a topic. They just have something in mind, and they still not able to get very narrow topic which they could describe, they could research around. This is really, really important to be clear about what we're going to focus in our paper. Because if we're too fuzzy, we don't understand what was published, we don't have a deep knowledge of this narrow niche, we're kind of lost. So I know it from my own experience, like with my PhD. I'm still doing it, and only half a year ago I discovered really this niche. 2 years I was battling, thinking, reading. So having clear topic is extremely important. How to find it? Plenty of places. The easiest one will be PhD research. If you did a good PhD research, just think how you can work around and do paper out of it. But the easiest approach, and my advice is just read a lot. If you read a lot of scientific papers, you will find a lot of topics in your area. As you already know, I'm sure, every good scientific paper, I mean article, at the end provides you a recommendation how to develop this research. And I think this is the easiest way. Because very good authors with good research, at the end, they show their weak side, what was weak, what were the obstacles of their research, and at the end they recommend how this research can be developed, how can be described or taken somewhere else. And I think this is the best place to find the topic. Because topic should be feasible. This is very, very important. Because many people have a great idea for good paper, but they never spent enough time to think if the topic is feasible. This is a very important question, because feasible is, let's say, we are in business management faculty, so I will give an example on this. Feasible topic is, first of all, topic which we can support with the good literature. Yeah? Because many people say, oh yeah, no one described this for the last 5 years. That means that is a very good, unique, niche, good topic which I can focus on. Is wrong, because if no one describe, always is a reason why no one search around this problem. But if no one did it, how we find the literature which we support the article? Well, how we build our literature review? So this is first question. Second one, is it feasible if we search company? Are we going to have access to data? If you write about strategy, let's say the international strategy of Lithuanian bank, for example, doesn't matter that you have a friend, but if you finally go to this bank, are you sure that they give you data? So this is really important to think about this in advance, because then people start to write, they start to do some research, and finally they hit the wall, which does not allow them to finish their research, and they push it. But when you push the article, when you force it, it will not be good. So make sure that you're able to find a topic which you're able to support with the literature and get the data. And it doesn't matter really which subject area you cover. This is really, really important. We have to understand that editors are looking for something new. They are looking for new ideas, and if we do not read a lot, if we are not aware what's going on around, I mean, what was published with Oxford, Cambridge, Elsevier, Springer around our topic, we are not able to bring them new ideas. This is extremely important, that we should be aware of articles around our research interest for the last 10 years minimum. Even what was published last month, this month. And this is extremely important, because editors, they compete. They don't want to publish paper which is repeating something what was published with the competition. Of course, the question is which journal we want to publish, but this is extremely important to be aware. Constant reading. I always spend a lot of time on that, but we don't have much time. It's really important, because if somebody, you know, I always say it's extremely difficult to do the first paper. The 10th one is much easier, because to prepare the first paper, you have to read, I don't know, 100, 150 articles. But if you do your 5th, you already probably read over the last 2 years, I don't know, 400 articles. And if you manage them properly, if you have your own kind of the library, cataloging system, then it's much easier to come back to the literature. You just have to be on top of that, what is new. But if you're starting the new research area, and many researchers do that, they specialize in marketing and suddenly say, I'm interested now in strategy. That means that they have to catch up with everything important what appeared over the last, I don't know how many years, because that depends on the subject area. But this is really important to be aware what is in the literature. So how to start good literature review? Many people, especially young researchers, say Google Scholar. I'm not enemy of Google Scholar, but Google Scholar is not a good place to start. This is my advice. Because Google Scholar is a place which gives you a list of articles, but without control. I mean, you put your key research questions and you get 5,000 articles. How do you know which one to select? They give you very often just abstracts or white papers. Not good stuff. So my recommendation is really to visit the library, because I believe that in Lithuania, especially, that you have such a strong association, so developed libraries is a different situation. But in many universities, I see a situation that professors do not appreciate librarians. They think that if I'm physics, they don't have a clue about my area, which is wrong. They don't have a clue maybe about the area, but they know how to find the information. And this is what I always recommend. The visit library. Have a look what really you have in the library. Google Scholar, I would only recommend if you struggle with, if you already understand your topic. You read, let's say, first strong 20, 30 papers, you understand your research subject, and you know how to search. Then you can try Google Scholar to see what else could be in the publishing world. Or at the latest stage, when you did your literature review, you did your research, you did analysis, and let's say for last half a year you didn't read because you were doing this practical side of your project. So then I would jump to Google Scholar to make sure when I'm writing the last version of my paper, what's new could appear. Because for editor, it will be very impressive if he opens your bibliography, and they open it very quickly when they get your paper, that you have the latest papers, not only from 2013, but from April 2014. This is really important to make sure and be aware what is published. There are many different resources which can help you with that. About this one, which is in Oxford Bibliographies Online, I will tell a little bit more at my second part of the presentation. But pay attention to them, because such a resources like this give you the information about, this is research guide. The specialists in the narrow area present the scientific papers but which describe the topic. They give you introduction, and they give you, let's say, 50, 60 recommendations for good academic papers which you could include into your paper. It helps you to save a lot of time. You know, if you start from scratch, let's say you selected narrow topic which you really don't know much, you maybe read 2 books about that, such a product saves your time, because straight away you can, and if they have an article around your topic, they give you recommendation for 50, 60 articles, an introduction and description of the topic. This is very useful. It can save half a year sometimes. So this is just example of one slide of PhD thesis and research, but this really, you know, we never should jump here. I mean, when we think about our topic, we should go through each path from proper literature review, and at the end, please make tests. I mean, try to make sure if it's feasible. I already said this, but this is very important. And here is very often problematic issue, because if people didn't do appropriate preparation and they come to this point, they found the literature, but they cannot find the data, and they didn't check it before, the problems start here very often. Here's the pivot. Here, we should be flexible. Don't try to push your article. If you see that you start already writing, you did the research, but you start to face problems, be flexible. Try to think, you know, it's better to be flexible and find maybe slightly easier topic, or change it a little bit, but make good article instead of trying to force the article, trying to force yourself, because finally it will be artificial. Very brief advice on how quickly you can go through literature review. In Polish it says 5 na 5. I got it from Professor Cieślik. In Poland, very famous guy. He started, I think he opened the Ernst Young office. Now he works at Koźmiński Business School. And this is his advice, how quickly you can get the quick literature review, and how you can find the topic, how you can understand what's going on in your narrow area. So first of all, find 5 top journals in your area. Not that you want to publish there, just 5 top journals. Why? Because, for example, you can see what researchers are searching. Maybe you will find some special issues around your topic. So this is very, very quick. For example, as you have an Emerald as well. Emerald, very often in business and management, they have this special issues dedicated to narrow topic, which helps you quickly get 12 articles about area you're interested in. Then 5 top internationally recognized books. Books gives you the background, give you the wide understanding of the area. And this is very important. When we do research, we shouldn't be too focused, meaning that we should have a deep knowledge of this narrow area, but we should understand what's going around. Because lots of stuff is interconnected. So through these books, first of all, we understand what's going on. Then we start to as well have a kind of citations, samples, and as well suggestions. Who is guru in the area? 5 academic research centers around your topic. This is very important because first of all, we can see what areas they do. For example, if you're in business and management and you open website of EFMD or ISCSB or Siemens, for example, you will see that they do a lot of search about business schools, the future of the business schools. So they projects, they grants will suggest what is interesting for the academic world. And this is a good message for us because we shouldn't, okay, I understand that somebody can say, I will not do anything against myself. But if we start the papers just publish now, it's good to think what will be interesting for academic community. Because if we know what academic community around the world is interested in today, in what kind of problems, it's better to focus our research as well around this, because for editor, definitely it will be interesting. So through this, we can understand what's going on. Through these research centers as well, we can find the 5 most important conferences around our topic or interest area. This is very good because it gives us a lot of opportunities. First of all, it's worth to attend one of them once a year, but attend to build connections. I mean, to make sure that we give away so many business cards and collect so many business cards as possible, because we can use those people later. Then, as well, if we started some idea, present your paper there. Many conferences give you opportunity to present your research idea. And don't be shy, because those people understand that the presenter wants to get critique, that you don't present to show how clever you are. You present your idea, and you came here to get advice from top researchers, how and what they think about your research, what suggestions they can give you. This is very, very important and useful to take advantage of such opportunities. And the last one, 5 most prestigious professors in your narrow topic area, so-called gurus. But I would advise they should be gurus which publish articles, not only books, articles. And why it's useful? Because if you get, let's say you got 5 top guys from change management, and if you go through their articles for the last 3 years, and you just open their bibliographies, and you have a lovely collection of articles which you can select and use for your research. Because in their articles, they already, as I said, they have to be specialized in your narrow field. For example, if we talk about marketing, I'm not talking read Kotler's articles, because I'm not talking about the subject area gurus. I'm talking about your niche, your narrow subject gurus, because then the articles definitely will cover your subject area. And then when you go to the literature review, you will see already who they quoted. If they quote people, each of them will give you minimum 50, 60, 70 references in their bibliography. It's much easier to skim the bibliography and just say, okay, I need to read those 10 articles first. So this is really good advice. That helps to save a lot of time when we build the literature. But literature review and bibliography, they are completely 2 different things. So when you write your article, make sure that you put to your bibliography everything really what gone through your hands, what was linked to the article. But literature review section should show your critical thinking. In literature review part of the article, you should show how you came from point A, which means understanding of the whole problem, to point B, how you found your niche. Don't put everything to literature review section. It should really show that you were able to read 120 articles and summarize it and show that you're able to understand and pick bits and bits out of it. So this is really, really important. Why? Because as well, be aware that when you send the article to editor, it depends again on the journal. But if the journal is pretty prestigious and editor is very busy, as many editors told me, they take decision if they accept the article very often after title, abstract, and they have a look at the bibliography section. If they see mistakes there, they even will not read it. So this is really important, that bibliography should be impressive. You should prove that you're on top of everything. Not everything, but I mean on top of most important papers. You know, a good title is your first point of contact with editor. Then he reads abstract, because the good abstract in those 250 words maximum should show everything. What was your aim? What research methodology you applied? What you have discovered? What limitations? What suggestions, for example? So bibliography is extremely important, because many papers are rejected just after editor read the bibliography. So which journal to go for? This is very important questions. Many people ask how to select journal. If you read already a lot, you already know which journals are good. This is kind of natural process. But which journal you should consider to publish your first or second paper? Unfortunately, a lot of universities say journals with impact factor, and this is really, really problematic issue. Because, you know, it's good for Oxford, for example. We have plenty of journals with impact factor. In finance, economics, we have top journals in subject area. When you look at Oxford in terms of impact factor, over 26% of our journals are in top 10 in the subject area of the list of impact factor journals. Over 60% in top 25 in the subject area. But the question is, should we think about such journals if we just start, if we just prepare our first or second paper? My personal opinion is no. I think this is a mistake. If somebody try to evaluate and select journals only after impact factor is a big, big mistake. There are many other factors which show you which journal is good. For example, pay attention who is the editor. Check who was publishing their research with these particular journals. What usage they have. Because the game is not only about getting published, but getting quotations as well. Being quoted. This is another important factor. So we should pay to many factors our attention, but the real answer is I would always consider journals without impact factor. I would even consider journals which are not prestigious. Answer why for the question why is simple. We will get rejected, and we will get rejected. This is normal part of the process. Journals reject. In business management, over 50% of papers are rejected. You know, when you take the good journal, which very prestigious journals, for example, in business management, the acceptance rate is 2, 3, 4%. And if they receive 2,000 papers a year and accept only 150, so that shows us is big competition, is a competition of top researchers, of the PhD students, of people around the world. So, and the problem is if they reject us, and this is very busy editor, we don't get too much comments. So how we should learn? We learn from comments. This is the most valuable way of learning how to get published. So I would always suggest start your papers with journals which are new, which are not very famous. For example, Oxford launches good journals, and they just new, so they don't have such a competition. Emerald launches journals, Springer, Cambridge. Try to select such journals. Maybe you're lucky and you get publications, but if they reject you, is a higher possibility that you will get more comments from editor and reviewers. And this is very important, because only through their comments you see what mistakes you did. You know, another point is, if you get high pressure on ISI ranked journals, every project allows you to write 1, 2, 3 papers at the same time. Because many people do this mistake. They did an interesting project, suddenly they discovered so many interesting issues, and they try to put all this stuff into one article. This is a big mistake, because articles should be narrow about specific problems. So if your project allowed you to discover a few different issues, write 3 different articles. No one stops you from this. Yeah? You can use similar literature review, just maybe different analysis, or you focus on different problems. And then you write one article for not ISI ranked journal and another for ISI ranked journal. I have a few colleagues who write 2, 3, 4, 5 articles at the same time. Writing an article for them is just part of the life. They read every week a lot, and they write every week a lot. It doesn't mean that Monday he writes this article, Tuesday he writes this article. No. Maybe this week he just is focused on one article, but probably another 4 are opened. Why? Because when they do literature review, when they read and they discovered something interesting, they know that they will forget. So it's much easier to type 2 pages and this is the beginning of the article. It's much easier to come back to this. And this is natural part of their life, you know, because I'm not a good writer. And I see whatever I do with mileage, I do it better and better. And if you write, you know, even writing skills in English, you know, if you currently don't have any article, just do simple thing. Every day 5 minutes when you come to the university, when you read the article in the local newspaper or listen to the news, just type half a page in English what you listen. You will see that after half a year, your writing skills will grow. What is 5 minutes? You know, you spend more time on Facebook every day, so 5 minutes on typing, but it will improve your skill. I don't have a Facebook, so I have more time than you. But trust me, this is really important to improve the skill. So, I will not go through this. I will leave this presentation so you can read that. But if you had a Martin Lawrence from Emerald in Kaunas, I think he's using this slide as well. So select the journal. And to select the journal is very important. When do you select it? You know, many people do research, write the paper, and they say, yeah, I think during the writing, they think they know some names, I mean titles of the journals, and say, yeah, I would like to publish in this journal, in this. But only when they finish their paper, they really start to learn the journal. This is a big mistake, because then they have a ready paper which doesn't fit probably to any journal. So advice is, before you start your research, think about potential 2, 3, 4 journals you would like to publish your paper with, and go through the author guideline. Read what expectations are on editorial side, what type of research they accept, if they accept case study or qualitative or quantitative research, or maybe they accept concept papers or only research papers. This is very important to understand. And if you understand the journals up front, then you can prepare your project, because you understand your enemy and you know how to approach to your question and topic and do whole research, and then writing article according to those expectations is much, much easier. So this is really important to keep in mind. Okay, so it's just the introduction to give you overview that preparation is very important, but it is extremely important. You know, Ichak Adizes, you have an office of Adizes here in Kaunas. Virginius Kondratas is dealing with this office. Say, but this is very clever stuff that, you know, the longest trip, and I think it's a Chinese proverb, the longest trip doesn't start with the first step, it starts with the first misstep. And this is really true, because if you do not prepare properly at the beginning of your research project, then it can take very, very long. But if you do, and you spend a little bit more time on preparation, then it will be much easier when the project starts, when everything proceeds. Okay, so revision process, you know, no one can avoid it. This is just the part of the process. And many people say, yeah, you know, would be nice, but all these editors, reviewers, this is nightmare. But the truth is, the process is designed to help us. I mean, the editor selects the reviewers accordingly to your narrow specialization. Those people understand your research niche. They have a different angle of understanding of the problem. They might come completely from different continent. They have a different background, different experience, and that helps them to pay attention to your research and look at them through their eyes. This is very useful because we are very often extremely subjective in our research. We always think that it could not be done better, which is not true. So please read the process, that not somebody who is somewhere else and works against you, but see those people as a people who want to help you. And you know, when you get, we don't get criticized, but let's be honest, if we send the paper, we have to be aware that if we did something wrongly, or if our research is weak, or is there plenty space to be improved, we should be ready to receive criticism, but positive criticism. They will tell you what is wrong from their perspective. Maybe your methodology is wrong, but don't take it personally. This is extremely important message. They don't criticize, they don't criticize you. They give their critique to the research you did. and take it positively. This is very important because they don't tell you are crap. No, they tell you simply research is weak. And learn from this point. We can only learn through this. From people who might have a maybe different experience, they understand stuff differently. So when we prepare, make sure that you follow the whole process when you prepare the paper and when you send the paper accordingly to the rules which are on dedicated journal's website. Because, you know, when you send the paper, you don't send it to Oxford University Press. You send it to the particular journal. And we have to remember that there are some basic rules on the level of OUP, but then there are another rules on the level of particular journal. So we have to do everything to understand the rules of this journal. Make sure that you read author guideline of your dedicated journal. This is very important. And if you didn't, and if you don't understand the guide and guideline of the editor, he will understand it quickly and he will reject your paper. The reason is very simple, because why he should waste the time of his reviewers for your paper if you didn't dedicate 20 minutes to read the author guideline? You know, for him is a risk that you did everything wrongly. You know, follow the rules, send the email if they want the email. If the submission is through the platform of the publisher, but they still say, please send the 3 printed copies to the editor, do it. Do everything accordingly to that what they said, because there is a reason behind this. If they say there is a regional editor in Vilnius or Kaunas, send it to the local guy or local lady. Don't send it to the main one. You know, it sounds funny, but trust me, many people do such a small mistakes. But if editor gets main one, which is, let's say, in London, he gets the article and he knows that you are coming from this region, for him it's obvious that you didn't read the author guideline, the basic stuff. How he should read it later? Probably he will reject it. When you have a look at Oxford's site, this is Oxford Journals, such information you have here for authors. You find all basic information about how to get published with OUP, all useful needed information for potential authors. But if you finally want to learn about your journal, always go to the journal. So first of all, read the general information of the publisher and then go to journal. When we, let's say, take economics, I took this journal, Economic Studies, and then you have as well section for authors on each journal website dedicated to the expectation of editor. It's really important to read it. And I know that many people do not read it and then are surprised that they were not accepted. The information is very deep, so I'm just showing samples. Every article from every journal from Oxford gives you some articles free of charge to read, and this is important as well. If you select a journal which you want to publish with, please read some articles from this journal. This is important as well, to understand the approach, the writing style. A lot of stuff you can read between the lines, so you can see how the data is presented by authors which were successful. So this is something which I advise. And the list is long, a lot about structure, reference style, how to submit, and so on. The list is much, much longer, so I was not able to copy it on one slide. Okay, so another very important information, when your paper is ready, you wrote your paper, you are preparing yourself to submit your paper, please make sure that you did everything what was possible to avoid any technical mistakes. And this is example of some stuff which editors are looking in your paper in addition to the research topic you did. I mean, extra to the context and content of the research. So first of all, you can approach them as a questions to yourself. Ask yourself those questions. Is my paper original? This is really, really interesting. It's not easy to do original paper, but trust me, original papers are much more interesting for editors than just boring papers. It's not easy to be original, but there are so many simple solutions. For example, if you're doing stuff in one subject area, think maybe you can invite somebody from different faculty, sociology, psychology, I don't know, and combine cross-disciplinary, multidisciplinary approach. This is already original approach. Or if in your subject area all people were using quantitative approach, and if you think that you're able to handle it and use qualitative approach to this research area, it is already original, because no one did it in the past. So originality doesn't mean that you have to be Einstein and discover, invent something impossible. No, just to think how to use the tools which you have. But it's not always easy. But if you see during the research that there is something original, try to write some paper around this original issue. Another point, how you extend the knowledge which exists already. What you add extra to body of knowledge which you describing and your research is focused. This is really important. If you're just repeating that what was said already by another publishers, another authors, it's nothing interesting in your paper. Make sure that you bring something extra. You bring something new. Because as I said at the beginning, editors compete with other editors, and they are not interested to publish paper which simply repeats 10 research done by another 10 researchers. Research methodology section. And research methodology itself. This is a very important part of the university, to teach and learn students to understand research methodology. And I'm not planning to talk about this, but please be aware that editor, when he read, or reviewer read your title, abstract, bibliography, very often he will jump to the research methodology. Because for him it's like quality stamp, quality proof. Through research methodology section, he's trying to, because already from good abstract, he understands what you discovered. In 1-2 sentences you should be able to describe. If you're not able to describe in 2 sentences what you did, the big question is maybe your paper is not narrow enough. So editor, if he read your abstract, he already knows what you did. He is very much interested how you did it. Because as you know, this is academic paper, is scientific paper. It's not the paper for the magazine. So for him or her, it's important to see how you did it. If you were able to find those solutions or discover this stuff using this methodology. The problem is many people who do project, they do literature review, they do research, they describe nicely what they discover, but very often they think that the research methodology itself is not important. And they don't pay much attention. Very often abstract title and research methodology is written at the latest moment. Big mistake. Research methodology section is very important for editor to evaluate the quality of your paper from the scientific point of view. And spend a lot of time on it. And I would say one thing, when you read papers, when you read articles, as well read them carefully. I mean, you know, when I buy a book and if I spend for a book £50, it doesn't mean that I will read it from the first page to the last page because I paid £50. If there are only 2 chapters interesting for me, I will read only those 2 chapters. The same is with articles. If you read your first 40 articles, it doesn't mean that you have to read from the very beginning to the very end. Yeah? Depending which part of your project you are in. But as well, when you read your articles, try to build, as I already said, kind of metadata, cataloging, so you not only read and highlight or whatever system you're using, but try to do kind of the lists that later you can find the information easily. For example, you're reading articles and then you see research methodology section was described very nicely. They were using very good methodology in your data which you're building. Make sure that later when you will be writing the research methodology section, very easily you can find those articles and read a few times their research methodology section before you start to writing yours. What I'm just trying to tell you, articles do not only provide us scientific information, but as well they are kind of the handbooks on technical side, how somebody wrote his research section. Have a look. Try to copy, meaning try to see how nicely he described this, what approach he has. So articles can read us, learn us, from articles we can learn a lot of different things, not only what was discovered, but as well the technical side. Then the language. I completely don't have a clue about Lithuanian language, so I don't know really how you structure your language. I only have experience with Polish, as myself I'm Polish. I speak Russian, so I as well understand Russian. If your language meaning grammatically in terms of structure is similar, I tell you what I mean. In Polish language, when I read the article, Polish scientific articles, I don't read them many because I don't like the language, are very heavy. I mean, very sophisticated, using very sophisticated vocabulary that author is trying to show how clever he is through the language which he is using. If your language is similar, don't write in Lithuanian style in English. Don't do it. Because in many people, for example, Poles, Russians, and many different countries, I believe, when they write, first of all, they try to use these sophisticated words which they find in the vocabulary and they put to the paper, and editor doesn't know what that means. So when already on the first page he came across 5 of such words, after second page he's not interested to read anymore. So this is number 1. Number 2, if your sentences in Lithuanian are very long, many commas, don't do the same in English, because English language is more simple. You will be losing meaning, or you will be losing attention of the reader. So make sure that your sentences are short, clear. It's really good to get some academic writing books which shows you really what is English academic writing style. It's completely different than, for example, Polish one. So should be simple. If you speak English but not very good and you do not write very good, I always recommend try writing in English, because it's much easier to find a native speaker who will simply read your text in poor English and improve, instead of find somebody who will translate from Lithuanian to English and will not lose the meaning of your paper. I know many researchers, more from Russia, as I'm spending less time in Poland, who already know that they did a translation through professional translator who didn't understand the economics, and their paper lost the meaning. I even remember the leaflets which we were translating to Polish, and when I read them, completely different meaning what was in original leaflet. So this is important. Language is, and why I'm saying about this, because you have to be aware, editor very often doesn't have much time. And very often he has to he's forced to take a quick decision, what he accepts, what he rejects. And if he sees that interesting paper but with poor English, and here is another interesting paper with good English, unfortunately, he will say, unfortunately, I have only space for 150 papers, I have to reject this. So this is pretty important part to learn. I'm just paying attention to time. A few minutes and I'm finishing. Language sounds, yeah, how you extend, how you have to show as well in your article that you really understand the literature. You have to prove that you understand your colleagues, you understand different researchers around your subject area, around your topic. And as well, when you build and read, forget about Lithuanian literature. If it's not in English, forget about this. I know that sounds bad, but I say exactly the same any country I'm visiting. Because if you're building your literature review and you're using the Lithuanian research, which is only in Lithuanian, and you put it into your bibliography, editor will reject the paper because he's not able to understand this literature. Because if it's only in Lithuanian, honestly, he will say, I'm not able to judge really your base of your research, because he probably will not find the editors who can evaluate, reviewers, sorry, who can evaluate. Another thing is, for him it's important to publish internationally recognized papers, which means he wants to get the article which can be read around the world, and people who read your paper later can jump to your literature review and can jump to the papers which you quoted. So this is the point. It's not against the literature in Lithuanian. It can be Lithuanian, but it has to be in English if you want to include, so people can track it easily. Good title, keywords, I already said this, but Emerald has a good abstracts. In Oxford, the abstracts are great, but they have a different style, because Oxford's journals are, over 75% of our journals are with world's leading associations. So many of our journals we just publish them. They are very often like European Association of Cardiology. This is collection of their journals, but we are just partners. So in OUP journals, abstracts very often have a different style according to different association, different organization. But for example, Emerald has a very good example of really good abstract. They took it from medical journals, but they're structured abstracts, maximum 250 words, and give you clear understanding what you should put in. I know that you have access to the database, so you can easily have a look how they build their abstracts. Co-authorship, highly recommended. I always say there is no Superman. So I don't know anyone who knows, or my wife says that she's Superman, she knows everything and she can do everything. But in reality she isn't, and I don't believe that everyone is a Superman. So if you're just starting, try to find partners for your research, but not people you like, because we very often people like who are as we are. Yeah? So, and very often they have the same strong and weak sides. You have to find people to your company who bring value. If you're good at writing, but you're poor at analyzing, get the company who is good at analyzing data. Another point, I mentioned conferences. You know, when you travel around the world, get as many business cards as you can and build network of people you know. Because when you start your project, what's the problem to send email to professors you met on the conference, I don't know where, in London, whatever, that you're running the new project and you just would like to ask if they might have some PhD students which could be interested to join. It's useful because if you get the partners from different universities, you extend your network as well. Because everything is about getting advice later. First of all, to get people on the project who help you in the project, doing it, writing it, but later when your paper is ready, to get people who can bring advice, who can critique the paper, who can share their experience with you to improve your paper. So please make sure, I always advise, and I think it's very easy today to get the co-authors. If you're active, if you don't have the money to go for conferences, there are so many, how it's called professionally, academic societies that you can register. There's some discussions, people exchange their views. Just be active there. Yeah, and peer revision, another very important point. Do everything before you send your paper to editor to get opinion about your paper. Send to your colleagues within the university. Send to your colleagues within the Kaunas, Vilnius, Lithuania. But as well, if you already had some business cards, as I said, from conferences, what's the problem to send to such a professors, you know? If you already met John, Caroline, it's so easy to type an email. Hi, Caroline, we met last year on the conference, and knowing that you're so highly specialized in this area, I would like kindly ask you if you could read my paper quickly and give me your advice, what you would improve. If Caroline says, no, I don't have a time, you still have a 29 business cards. Sent to another one. You know, some of them might say no because they really will be busy, but some of them might give you advice. So this is really, really useful stuff to apply. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but I'm afraid I can forget it. If you have your paper ready, and for example, you select a journal, which is, let's say, category C, not very prestigious, but still impact factor, C journal, what I would do, I would send the ready paper, which went through all possible peer revision, to journal which is higher, like B journal. And not, of course, everyone has a hope, but my aim would be not to get, I don't hope to get acceptance there, but I hope that will not be rejected on the desk, but I still will have a hope that it will go to the first reviewer who will reject me, but hopefully he will give me his opinions, what he doesn't like. Better journal means better reviewers. So from better reviewers, I might get a better critique, which still helps me to improve paper at the last moment before I send to my journal C. Do you know understand what I was trying to say? This is, you know, sometimes it costs time. You invest 2-3 months because you will wait for the, sometimes they might reject and say no, straight away. But if you're not under the time pressure, I know many people who do it. Because, you know, you will get rejected a lot. This is part of the process. But if you're writing many papers, what I said at the beginning, That means that over the year you're sending many articles and you receive many rejections. You learn a lot out of the critique, comments, but most important, you broke the psycho fear, if you know what I mean. If you write your first paper in your life and you sending to ISI ranked journal, is such a stress. You're constantly nervous because everyone asks you about this bloody article. You already hate it, and finally you send this article and they rejected you. So painful. But if you already started what I told you and already you got rejected 10 times with not ISI ranked journal, what's the difference? You know, you get used to it already. Or maybe over those 10 journals you already got 2 papers. You know, I know people who were sending only to ISI ranked journals, and over the period of 2-3 years they did not get any publication. But I know people who were sending to journals with no impact factor, and over 3 years they got 4 articles and finally the first impact factor. This is really depending how much time you have and if you're academic. I'm not academic, so for me it's difficult, this approach. But if I were academic, meaning I know that your life is not easy, but if you dedicated your life to the university, you will be here within the 5-10 years. So, you know, it's completely different approach. For me, no one judges me on my academic outcome, so I don't have such an approach, even need for ISI ranked journal. But sometimes postpone it in the time, but better outcome is much more valuable. Plagiarism is another issue. I know that you know that today every publisher has all this lovely stuff which scans your article. So make sure that you avoid plagiat, and it's very easy to do plagiat. You know, when I prepare anything to be written, I'm doing now my PhD, as I said, I'm trying to write it. Time is a problem. When I read the article, very often I'm copying lovely chunks of information from the article and I'm pasting to my PhD thesis. But the difference is that I'm making it on red and I'm straight away putting the bibliography that I know that is not mine, that for time being, I have stolen it. But the thing is, I'm doing this because I'm afraid that later I can forget about this good information I found in the article. So make sure, if you do as I do, make sure that you will never miss. So make the color, make different size, put there as well the who, where I have stolen it. I just said this. Because if you forget, trust me, the good system will pick this and no one will listen. Oh, I forgot about this. It will be rejected. Another problem is if you have some articles which were written in English, don't copy and paste, because for us it will be plagiat as well. So if you did a research and you wrote it in English and now you extended your research and you're using the first article as a base of this research, make sure that you rewrite the first article. Or even if you took just 30%, you cannot simply copy and paste, because for us it will be plagiat and no one will care that this is the same author. So some technical issues, and there is no discussion. Plagiat is plagiat, publisher is rejecting, and no one will talk to you about this. Another point, I don't know if we have a time, revision. Revision is like between rejection and acceptance, but this is very good message, because many papers are rejected and many papers are getting the revision request. That editor is telling, the paper is weak, you need to do this, this and that. If you do it, send it again, then I will think if it goes to first reviewer. This is really good message for you because they didn't reject it. Make sure that you do everything as they asked. If you don't understand them, send them email and explain, I understood your request, this and that and that. I'm correct. Never try to do and change anything you don't understand, because you can do it even worse. And attach later cover letter. Explanation, what you was asked to do and how you did it and where you did it. Comments. As I said, comments from reviewers, editors are not personal, so make sure that you take them easy. And don't if they touched your heart very deeply, leave the article for a few days. Have a glass of wine, whatever you do to relax. Don't reply the same day, because this is the biggest mistake. Because you can say, oh yeah, you know, if he wrote or she wrote to me like this, I can write the same to her. But remember, there are people. You never know if this lovely professor driving to university had an accident, then dean or rector was shouting at him, wife called him, did some screaming, and then finally he reads your article 9:30 and is kind of not offensive but aggressive. You might be, unfortunately, the person on whom the whole bad energy will be focused. So be diplomatic. Make sure that you reply to them normally. Rejection, I hope I tried to already code you. That is a part of the process. Publishers reject poor and great researchers. They reject not because you're not very good. Reviewers are subjective as well, you know. They might reject you because you had a bad luck and you sent the paper when was a huge competition. An editor got so many papers and he even didn't have a time to read all of them, and he just selected the best ones. So don't give up. You know, this is really important, that when they reject you, do everything that your paper is as good as possible to this moment. And when they reject you, it's always much easier to improve the paper and send it again to another publisher than start the research from the scratch. But never send the article to few publishers at the same time. Because you don't know who is the editor. And you might have a bad luck that you send to 3 publishers and 2 of them are using the same reviewer. Trust me, I heard about such situations from editors when I was at Emerald. And what they do, they reject it. And one told me, it was Stan Palivoda, he told me that he accepted the paper. And he wanted to approve it, and then he got the paper from another publisher. And he said then he rejected both. And said it was sad because he liked the paper, but it was unethical. So don't do it, be patient. If you're not patient, write, as I said, 2-3 articles. Kind of similar, slightly different. It's not such a big deal. Always is possible to change some data, some stuff, and send to 3 different publishers. Yeah, and when they reject you, if you're quick, because, you know, sometimes, you know, the biggest problem is when we get the desk rejection, when the editor just give us the basic information. But if we get a rejection already from the first, second reviewer, they always will give us more information, why they are rejecting our paper. But, you know, sometimes it's good to write to them quickly and trying to get more feedback. Why? To get more deep information. But this is the place where we learn. So make sure that you're learning as much as possible out of this stuff. Because we don't have a time, I will have to skim more about abstracts and other stuff, as well what OUP. OUP currently really is very much interested to get more and more research outcome from Lithuania, not only, but Baltic states as well. We try to, you know, support, we try to do more and more projects which will help. So currently we have a global author services. Currently we work on it to develop new services and projects which will help in terms of academic writings. We have the biggest in the world program of English language teaching, so we try to combine all the skills, probably later possibility to join with universities. As well, some editing services. Currently we have for science and medicine, but soon for other subject areas, so we try to get the best editors and provide editing services for papers which should be improved in terms of English, not translations, but editing. Yeah? And as well, please be aware that OUP doesn't mean only journals. There is a lot of space to be published with us on different products. You can prepare something for bibliographies online, or for handbooks, or monographs. And as well, we have those specialized platforms like for law, for art, music, and other disciplines. So there are many, many other places you could think about your publishing. It's not only articles. Sometimes it's good to start with the free landing pages about interesting area, and they could be accepted by, let's say, Grove Art Online editor, because you describe very interesting topic linked to Lithuanian artists. So take opportunity.